What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Rock and Roll Gypsy Diaries with your host, Andy Thunders. And I'm here with Scoot, the bass player for legendary UK Crust punk band Doom, and also a counterpart of Extinction of Mankind, which is also really good. How are you, man?
Doing all right. Thanks for a Tuesday dinner time,
It's an absolute honor. Like I said, as a young skater punk, as a teen, Police Bastard was definitely on almost every mix I made for people about punk rock.
Yeah, it's definitely a well-played song, I think, these days.
Yeah.
But well, we were all that kid, weren't we? We all had its influences, we all got into things, and it all led us down a path, and here we are now.
Did you think you'd still be doing it at this point in your life?
God, no.
When you started?
No, I had no agenda, no plan. I just wanted to be able to play my guitar and travel and sort of meet like-minded people. And never thought about what it'd be like when I was 30, and then 40s, and then almost 50. So yeah, no, I never saw past the moment, really. And here we are this far down the line.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, take us back to those days. What was it like? What were your influences, and what got you into music as a young kid?
My influences originally was my dad and my uncle. My dad was a biker punk, so he had stuff like the Stranglers, Devo, Zappa,
Nice.
Led Zeppelin, Pistols, and then his
Sounds like my record collection.
Yeah. And then his brother had more stuff like the Damned and Killing Joke, and then Crass.
Oh,
So you put it all together, or Discharge, obviously. And then you put all that together, and obviously Motorhead, Hawkwind. My dad was a big Hawkwind fan.
Oh yeah.
And so the classic, and then Venom, and then bands like Metallica at the time, like in '85, were like sort of become the next extreme band, which is weird saying that now, It's
Yeah, it is actually.
Slayer, everything. So I don't remember a lot of stuff from school, but my education was music. Now, do I look back, I wish I'd learned more academically. Sometimes I do, but sometimes there's paths I just put before us. And I remember it distinctively. Going through my dad's record collection, early Floyd, that was another thing. So there's a lot of 60s psychedelic stuff to the 70s rock. Bands that I didn't quite get at the time, like Sensational, Alex Harvey Band, in early seasons that I love now, Cream.
Yeah, I had a Tom Waits record given to me, and I didn't get it at first, but years later I put it on, and it was just like, wow, this is profound.
Yeah, my dad listened to some Tom Waits. I never quite got it, but I kind of got his angle. I was like, nah, man, give me a guitar and something with a bit of heavy, with a heavy vibe. And
yeah,
I was always into the heavy stuff, and everything had to get more and more extreme. I mean, Crass, when I first heard Crass, I mean, the Pistols were always great, but my dad had never mind the bollocks like since 1977, so I was 3 years old then. So it's just always been there. Those were like lullabies, Devo, Are We Not Men, We Are Devo. It's like, that was just always there. The Tubes, White Punks on Dope, that was the one.
Yeah, that's a great one. I love that song.
And then early Alice Cooper, when like Zappa released the first couple of albums on his
label, Pretty's For You and stuff like that, the really deep stuff.
So all that was just always there. And then the Stranglers with a heavy bass line.
Oh yeah.
And it's just like, so that was my education, and that's all I put my head into. Growing up, and then parents like, you've got to knuckle under, you've got to work harder at school. And I'm like, oh, John Peel. That was another thing. My dad listened to a lot of John Peel. The Old Grey Whistle Test, it was a music program over here.
Yeah, there's been some bands that have released like DVD anthologies where they have their old early Grey Whistle Test, and being a fan of, the New York Dolls and a lot of that early 70s proto-punk that made its way over there and vice versa throughout the years, I'm familiar, but a lot of Americans might not. It was like the early 70s. It was like your version of like Don Kirshner's rock concert that they had over here in a way.
Yeah, that's the one there. I think I've seen one of them. There was a Sabbath concert with Don Kirshner.
In 75, they had a live concert shot. That was actually really good footage.
Yeah.
you know.
See, I can't. The one thing, if I could change anything, to go back to the foundations of rock music, you know, like
Yeah, to be there at the ground level when it
yeah,
started.
for me, it'd be like Syd Barrett's Floyd in the sort of
Oh
late
yeah.
60s, and then the Hawkwind era. I mean, it's a shame that he couldn't get to speak to Stick because he's a bit older than us, and he kind of got the arse end of all that. He saw like AC/DC on the Highway to Hell tour, and he said it was just so loud it was hard to make the songs out.
That's
You know,
awesome.
he saw Sabbath on the Never Say Die tour.
Ooh,
I think he saw Motorhead in 1978 on the
nice. I
Overdrive
saw
tour.
Motorhead in 2003, but that doesn't count like 78. You know,
Yeah.
to be there when it was new and it was like unheard of, you know.
Yeah, when music was fresh and real, there was a lot of innovative ideas. You
Yeah,
know,
absolutely.
everything being taken to the extremes. I remember like Motorhead with the heaviest, loudest, noisiest band when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Word Crass or Discharge, and then Venom. You know, in the metal side, it was like Motorhead with the band, and then
Yeah.
Venom was like that was noisier, and then Metallica that was noisier.
Was
Slayer,
Celtic Frost on your radar?
that
Or
was
was
going
that?
to be the next one. Celtic Frost, yeah.
I was gonna say they seem to take an avant-garde type of style to the extreme metal. Everything's been divvied up. I just call it rock and roll at the end of the
Yeah,
day.
it's all heavy in it.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then obviously bands like Napalm Death who were very crash inspired and the narco punk.
Yeah. They
Getting into like the early the early Napalm started getting into the early Celtic Frost.
yeah.
So that's where all that the extreme
Nice.
stuff keeps rolling, and then Napalm Death
Yeah.
went more faster than the anarcho sounding stuff. And Birmingham obviously was a big. I mean, I'm from the north. Sabbath, Napalm Death, Doom all came from Birmingham, you know.
Yeah. And
So
there's a
obviously
certain sound. I mean, the English have a certain sound in their own, I've noticed, but you could tell when it's from the north because there's like an inherent darkness or legitimacy to it. I don't know how to explain it.
well,
You know what I mean?
I mean, it was more the Midlands for Sabbath and Doom. That's more here considered the Midlands. And
Yeah.
then a bit further up north, Stoke-on-Trent, and that's the home of Discharge.
Yeah.
Which for us, that was the noise, you know, that.
Oh, yeah. Well, it seems like, you know, it's funny because the purists, in a way, because I read around with some street punks in Philly in about 2010 with the spiky hair and everything. And it was really funny because I always noticed subtle nuances within the scene. Like, if my buddy went without a haircut for 2 weeks, it was, oh, your hair's getting long. What are you becoming, a hippie with your crass patch? There seems to be some kind of weird, like, you know, the punks and the metalheads, but you and I are proof that you can like both and not, you
Yeah,
know.
I know. I think it's funny thinking back to 2010, that being an issue. I mean, I remember that in the late 80s, and
Yeah.
kind of like getting kickings off punks for liking metal, and then getting kickings off metalers, but vice versa or whatever, you know. But Motorhead, they crossed
Yeah,
the divide for everything.
exactly. That's
Yeah.
like the case in point, you know, argument right there.
But then I guess it's about what's more important, the music or the politics. But we could be
Yeah.
here forever when we get into that one. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
So,
What came
so
first,
yeah.
the chicken or the egg?
And then like bands like the Amoebics, that's why I love the Amoebics, because they kind of like sounded like heavy thrash, but yet with sort of political lyrics and that. You know,
Yeah.
it's opened my eyes to a lot of other things. And
Mm-hmm.
you know, Crass always had a lot to say, obviously. So that
Oh,
always,
yeah, absolutely, without a doubt. I mean, for me, I can remember the first shock was hearing the Sex Pistols. Like, that was a shock to the guts, but in a good way. There was something about it that I kept going back to it because it was unlike anything I had heard before
that
or
production
owned
still
before.
to this day is one of the most.
You
That
know,
production, never mind the bollocks. It's just like
yeah, it really, even for me, like, you know, in 2003 or 4 was when I first heard the record, and it just, you know, changed my life. But then I heard Crass, and it was like that one step further, like, okay, you know, this isn't playtime anymore, you know.
yeah, yeah. And I've got a lot of friends who obviously were around because all these bands, as I was starting to go to gigs, were all splitting up. Crust were a bit earlier, but like Amoebics and Antisect, they were all Dead Kennedys. They all kind of broke up the same year as when I was about going to gigs. I was like, no, you know. But yeah, Crust was something else. I mean, all my friends were saying about the trouble at the gigs, you know, the intimidation, the air, the threat of violence in the air, the skinheads turning up at gigs to spoil it, and you know, like punks who had to run the gauntlet to get to the bus stop, to get to the gig and get home without getting kickings from skinheads or teddy boys or
yeah.
It's like a lot of people. Then you see like trendy people now with the ripped jeans and the piercings and the tattoos and the spiky coloured hair, and you're like, you know, wow, that actually become a fashion. Well, I guess punk became a fashion, but a trendy, normal, everyday thing. Whereas punks back then, you was kind of like living dangerously, you know, trying to avoid getting a kicking for trying to be an individual, you know.
Well, see, it's more acceptable in the city, but I find in the rural areas where I grew up and where I lived and went to high school, I was an alien with my mohawk and the tight tartan red plaid, you know, jeans with the zippers. It was definitely more of a statement in a small rural American town on the East Coast, that's for sure.
Yeah, I can believe it.
I mean, it's almost like they're stuck in a certain picturesque black and white quasi 50s mindset. And as soon as you drop someone like me and, you know, they're ready to chase you out of town with pitchforks.
Yeah.
You know,
them days. Yeah, I do remember them days.
But
especially when I was scruffier and filthier. And when I was younger, the more people would be like, the more I get scruffier, and so people keep.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'd take the kickings, you know. I don't know. I guess it was my individuality at the time.
Yeah, you know. So yeah, but
after that, you know, it was like it kind of went from being the most hated guy in town to like finally getting with like-minded people. Once I got to the 1 in 12 club in Bradford, you know, it was like I'm home. Safe, you know.
Yeah, it's funny. I get the last laugh in some ways because some people who put me down now like are like, dude, I always knew you'd do something. It's like, well, okay, who are you? You know, but you know, like you said, it chooses you. You don't choose it.
Yeah, it just makes us who we are now, you know.
Yeah.
And what we do with our time now, and you know, that's what's important. We're still here, so
yeah. So was Doom your first band and you guys started under another name in 87, or were you in some other bands before that?
Yeah, I wasn't the original bass player with Doom. Basically, that's the thing. In 1988, when War Crimes come out, I was what, 14? And then I loved it. I loved all the era. That sort of 1987 to 1990 was like with Napalm Death, Heresy, Extreme Noise Terror, Doom,
Yeah.
That was like the scene that spoke to me. And then Prophecy of Doom and Hellcrusher, and I ended up becoming more involved with towards the time. So I originally started playing in a band when I was 17 called Largactyl with some local kids, named after the Amoebics song, which was like chuggy, crusty, same shit that I'm playing now. Yeah, that was like
with the same bass tone.
Well, I was playing guitar then.
Oh, okay.
I was actually playing the guitar then, and I kind of at the time there was always people in, because I'm same as you. I was from a small town in the north, and people like, oh, we've got to form a band. And you'd be in the pub, yeah, let's form this band. Oh, let's do it next week. Let's get drunk today.
Yep.
Let's do it next week. Let's do it next week. So after sending the demo tape out to a lot of places and playing the 1 in 12 club, it was an autonomous, self-run sort of anarcho punk venue collective. I kind of got quite involved with that when I was younger. And that's where I met Bry Doom, because he was living in Bradford. He'd moved up from Birmingham.
Okay.
And he'd originally disbanded Doom, or he'd left Doom and they carried on with a different guitarist for a short while. Anyway, so I was involved in the 1 in 12 club, helping put gigs on, going to gigs, and I knew that Largactyl were going to go much further, but I had this dream because I'd never been abroad. My family couldn't afford to go leave England, or you know, so I always dreamt of going abroad and just God, just get out of Halifax, my town. Like usually, like Leeds, a little small town outside Philly. And
Yeah.
anyway, Brian just reformed Doom, and I think they'd just come back from Japan with the original lineup. And it wasn't working out for various reasons. And then they did a tour with a good friend called Sned, who stood in for that tour. And they'd done a recording, and I'd done some guitar with Bry. I actually did a bit of double guitars then. And then when the next gigs were coming up, Bry asked me if I wanted to play bass or stand in. I think I was standing in for someone that they had in, but then he didn't want to do it. So then they asked me. So from 92, from my first band, to 93 was when I joined Doom. So yeah, I did that for 2 years, did a few tours. But at the time when I went on tour with Doom, Extinction of Mankind, who'd only been going a couple of years, was supporting. And I were in them then. We were friends. But this is how it all ends up becoming part of the family.
Yeah.
You know? So yeah, so I joined Doom in 93.
Okay.
And did like the Full Peaceful, which was the war crimes, and the split with No Security, the Buried the Debt split that was on Peaceful. That was all re-recorded with a slightly different lineup.
Yeah.
Then I did a few other things. Oh, the split with Selfish, and the split with Hiatus, the Hell at Sweden 7-inch.
Some legend. So you played out a good bulk of the material then.
Yeah. And then we started writing Rush Hour of the Gods. And then that's when I left due to things going on at home, and we had a Swedish tour. And I think at the time I just lost a job, and my girlfriend at the time was giving me a whole heap of grief about going away when I didn't have a job. Anyway, so I left. I mean, I was, 20 then? So I done all this. I was still 20, 21.
Wow.
And then, so yeah. And then I moved up to further north, to the northeast, and joined the band called Hellcrusher, which was with members of Baptised. I don't know if you know Baptised.
Yeah.
So I did Hellcrusher for a while. And then Extinction of Mankind lost the guitarist. And then Extinction of Mankind asked me to join in 98. And yeah, being Extinction's guitar. So I'm like bass player for Doom and then guitarist for Extinction, just to confuse everyone.
That's
So,
really cool though. And it's actually, so are you still the guitar player then in Extinction?
Yeah. It'll be my 25th year next year. So I'm the new guy. I'm the new guy that joined nearly 25 years ago. So it's actually Extinction's 30th. Steve formed the band 30 years ago this year.
Wow.
So we're doing a few sort of gigs, doing some of the old songs, and hopefully, depending on what's going on with this virus.
That's
So,
really
yeah.
cool. Do you have a hand in any of the lyrics in any of the bands, by the way?
I've done a couple for Doom. I did Apostasy on a Corrupt Fucking System, the last album. And I did Doom did a split with Extinction of Mankind in 94. And I wrote lyrics for one of the song Carnivore Christian.
Nice.
On the last Extinction album, Cash Cow, and I can't remember. Yeah, I've done a couple here and there, but not so much.
Okay.
So, and then because going back to the bands, and Doom split up whenever it was after I left. They kept going for a few more years, maybe 5 years. And then in 2010, that's when we all reformed, because everywhere I was going with Extinction, everyone was wanting to ask about Doom.
Yeah.
And I understand why. It was part of a very special era. You know, it was exciting.
Yeah,
them guys all created something that, you know, really created a foundation for what's there now, you know.
You guys kind of picked up the torch where Crust kind of left it. If I can say with some honesty, without, you know, trying to bolster you up, but it's honestly you guys in Napalm Death and a lot of, you know, that late 80s, early 90s era, like you said, you know, some of the, you know, it's still the influence you guys had still is residual. I mean, I can't count how many times I've seen a Doom patch on the back of a, you know, punk with that 10-foot tall mohawk, you know.
Yeah, no, it's definitely made his mark, you know, and I can say that looking from the outside before I ever thought I'd be a part of it. And that's that kid in 1988, 14, you know.
Yeah.
And then seeing it afterwards, being a part of it, and people meeting me and not knowing that I was a part of it for a small while then. And then for the last 12 years, well, I say 12 years, but the last 2 years, no one's done it. So yeah, when Doom reformed in 2010, because I think Brad kind of missed playing the guitar, Doom did reform a few years before that. And then Wayne, basically from the original lineup, I played bass and Tom sang after the original lineup.
Yeah.
And then we left at the same time. And then that's when Dennis, who took over from me, played bass, who is now the singer.
Okay, gotcha.
Before Wayne, who was a really good friend of all of ours, he sadly passed away.
Yeah, I
after an
remember
epileptic
reading
seizure.
that.
And in 2009, me and Bry went to Hellfest because it was a big festival in France. I don't normally go to these massive festivals, but the Amoebics had reformed, and it's like Killing Joke playing and Syd Barrett and loads of cool bands. And then Dennis
Nice, St. Vitus, I love them.
Yeah. So we went to this festival, and then Dennis was there, and I don't know if we knew. Anyway, we all met up, and we had a really good time. And we were like, Dennis really wanted to reform Doom, and he wanted to sing.
Nice.
I was like, I'll play bass again. It's been a long time, but
Yeah.
Brian was playing the guitar at the time, and so I think Stick felt like he had to do it because the other three wanted to do it. So that's how Doom sort of reformed, and everyone was still involved. Stick and Bry at the time were involved with the 1 in 12 club. Stick was working there. He was like keeping the place. It was like what's the word? Like the upkeep of the place, a caretaker. And then Bry was in the studio in the 1 in 12 club. And I was there I recorded 2 or 3 Extinction albums with Bry at the 1 in 12. Dennis was involved with bands in Sweden. And we started seeing all these bands reforming, for the money, for the attention, for the nostalgia. And I was like, guys, everyone's still involved. But, all right, we're not playing in this band or that band, but everyone's still involved behind the scenes, in the scene. So I was like, why don't we do it? We've got a right to do it. I was still doing Extinction at the time.
You're all still musically active. You're all still doing the same thing you were.
Actually, the brain and the heart was still in the same place, because the politics, the DIY side of things, are the most important thing, really,
Yeah, absolutely. And the good thing is the world's still shitty, so you can still have a plethora of things to pull inspiration to write from.
Isn't that the truth? Yeah. So that's how Doom reform, really. And there was just a need for it, really, because people wanted to hear it again.
Yeah.
And I thought because we were still involved, it weren't a case of like taking our trendy clothes off and putting the old jeans on again and growing our hair. We were still the same people.
Yeah.
Still love our music, still love noise, still love the discharged Swedish inspiration, because that's what Brad created.
Yeah, Disorder was another good one too.
Yeah, definitely. But I mean, the sound of Doom, Brad was obsessed with Swedish hardcore in the 80s. Now, for people a few years older than me, tape trading, got it. Anti-Cymex, No Security, and then like Two Moons Rising, and the Discard was the band that Bry really. The inspiration for Doom was Discharge and Discard. I don't know if you know Discard, but they were very early Swedish Discharge inspired noise. But Sweden created their own style, you see. And Brian kind of like took that and created Doom with it. And
nice.
Stick joined and he put his bit to it, and then that's what created the foundations of it with Pete and John, the original guys. So, yeah, Discharge and Swedish hardcore was the sort of core root of Doom, really, with the punk attitude and DIY politics.
Yeah, I was going to say there's definitely the same kind of politics that, like we mentioned, like Crass and Oi Polloi earlier on, and Napalm Death around the same time that Doom started. Are there any places that you've played or any gigs that you've played that stick out in your mind, like memory wise, or,
Oh, well,
you can pick more than one if it's that hard. It's okay.
Well, good things or bad things. Should we just stick to the positive things?
It's up to you.
For me, doing my first ever gig with Doom was in Belgium, which was my first ever time leaving England. So
Oh,
that was
nice.
obviously, that was like the gateway, you know. So yeah, and then doing a tour, experiencing a tour for 2 weeks or 15 days, whatever it were,
What was the strangest place you've been then, or a strangest place you played a gig?
There's got to be a million and one of them. But I mean, just the fact that that I ended up in Japan. This was a weird moment. Back in 2017, was we we went on tour in Japan, and we hadn't, because we all live in different areas. Dennis the singer lives in Sweden now. He's English but lives in Sweden.
Yeah, that's why I asked you where you were at, because Stick had mentioned, because he runs the Facebook page.
Yeah, well, Stick and Bry originally came from Birmingham, but then they moved up north. Finally, they're living in my hometown, Halifax. But they were living in Bradford, which is about 15-minute train ride from here. And then they ended up sort of drifting over at Halifax. So we ended up pretty close. Now Brian is in Bristol, which is further down south. So yeah. So being in Japan and rehearsing, because I think since we reformed again in 2010, we've had 3 full band rehearsals.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's really, really weird. So I'm in Tokyo. We're playing Exploitation, a song that I listened to when I was 14. All right, I played it back in the 90s, the early 90s when I joined them originally.
Yeah.
I'm in Tokyo, rehearsing with Doom. This is really surreal. And then the night after, we're playing a gig in Tokyo,
Yeah.
I'm still that 14-year-old kid. I never grew up.
Yeah.
So that was a weird one. Like, being in Japan with Doom was pretty,
Yeah. I mean, it's really unique to me how, different audiences around the world take the different styles of music that you wouldn't ever expect. You know what I mean? Especially the extreme stuff. It's got its niche sort of in America, but worldwide there's so much. Like Hellfest, for example, in France. Do you know how much I wish that we had something even close to that over here? We don't have a lot of the openness that you guys have with music or noise, whatever you want to call it,
I mean, the internet's changed a lot as well, Andy. I mean, years ago, I wouldn't have even played or even gone to Hellfest because I was so DIY punk rock. Venues. But as you get older, do you play to the same exclusive audience, or the internet changed everything? And then it's a bit like a challenge. How will we go down in front of a few thousand people at a gig like this? Selfishly, I want to be able to see, I don't know, whatever band was playing, Killing Joke or Motorhead.
Yeah.
And I can see them for free. And that ain't going to happen a lot in my life.
No.
This was one of the most, my dreams to do a gig with Motorhead, which everyone's dream. It's never going to happen. But Hellfest, we played the same festival. So Motorhead were on the main stage, Doom were on the smaller stage, obviously. But Motorhead played at the same time as Doom.
Oh, nice.
In my dream. But of course it is, you know what I mean? It's just like, even the guy that runs Hellfest, the actual organizer, the head guy, came to us and said, I'm really sorry that someone has to play at the same time as Motorhead. I was like, God damn it. So like Doom are playing, and in between these songs, you can hear Motorhead in the background. It's surreal, right?
Yeah.
Dennis goes, I never thought I'd say this, but thank you for not going to watch Motorhead. So then as soon as we finished playing, I literally threw all the stuff at the side of the stage, didn't put it away. And then I went and just ran. I'd seen Motorhead a heap of times, but it's the closest I was going to get to,
Yeah.
Anyway.
I can just picture that. Fuck off! I've got to go see Motorhead.
Very strange moments, but yeah, just being able to play them songs with Doom again. Just the fact that we could pretty much travel anywhere in the world and be able to play them songs, very, very lucky.
That's just so cool that you guys are still around.
I mean, it ain't going to last forever, and I don't know what we've got planned next because we're all in different areas now, and COVID's changed everything so much, But up until now, we've done pretty good, and
Yeah, your last EP, which I bought from the eBay store, Consumed to Death. That's really good. I mean, you guys, it's like you never stopped. It's, it's
we never progressed.
Well, it's not a bad thing. You guys know what you do and you do it well, and it sounds like you guys. It doesn't, it's great. I mean, your bass tone is there. God.
Well, it was Brian that recorded that. I mean, all the recent stuff he's recorded,
It's well done. The artwork's great. Everything about it is just top notch. I've actually played a few of those songs on my radio show.
So I bet that woke a few people up, didn't it?
Oh yeah. Especially, I think one day the first song I played was the song Consume to Death, and it just starts in with the intro tape, and it's just so loud. I was like, yeah.
It's funny, that main riff after the slow bit, it was actually Deep Purple Highway Star that I had in my head when I started playing. It doesn't sound like it, but
yeah,
in my head, I want to do something in a similar vein to that. And then it just gets bastardized to what you hear.
Yeah.
There you go. Classic rock again somewhere. There's a lot of classic rock ideas that we have that end up becoming the noise,
That's what's really cool about you guys, is because, if the people who were calling my friend a hippie for having a grass patch and, longish hair, like too long for their liking, you knew what some of the stuff that their favorite bands were influenced by.
And,
we've
all grown up with that. I'm totally punk, and that I'm only going to listen to Discharge and Crust, and I pretty much still do. But I do go back to the foundations of all that, about what my dad would play.
Yeah, like we were having a conversation about Syd Barrett the one day.
Yeah, very much so.
I don't know. There's some people who consider him the original punk. I don't quite see that, but I guess, maybe his solo records could be, because they're so barren compared to what he did in Floyd.
Yeah, but if you hear the song Vegetable Man, which was his last recording with Pink Floyd, that's pretty, no one did Pink Floyd.
You are right. And it's interesting too with Pink Floyd, because they did some heavier stuff there too, like the Nile song and stuff like that.
And the Beats of Bar, whatever it was, which is that's noisier than the Nile song.
Yeah, it is. And I'm not certain, but I think a grunge band that I know, Love Battery, I think they covered that song actually. I know a couple of them did the Nile song.
Yeah, Voivod covered the Nile song.
Yeah.
And Astronomy Domini, obviously,
Yeah, and the Melvins did the Nile song as well.
Oh, did they really?
I
remember they did Interstellar Overdrive. I've heard the Melvins Interstellar Overdrive.
Yeah, and recently, on their one EP, Pinkest Abortion Technician, they did a great version of I Want to Hold Your Hand.
I haven't heard that. You'll have to send me a link to that later.
Oh, I will, because if you know the
Melvins releases, so like in the 90s especially, the late about 89 from Bullhead, I was kind of like got everything until what was it, Electro Retard? I hear that word. I think I got about as far as that, and then I kind of like couldn't keep up with everything the Melvin.
Yeah, because they are so prolific. I can't even keep up. I've got a cassette tape that's Mike and the Melvins, so it's someone from some noise band, I guess, or whatever, and the Melvins together, and they did a record called 3 Men and a Baby. I've got that on tape. Pinkest Abortion Technician has the bass player from the Butthole Surfers on it, so they've got 2 bass players on that. Yeah, that was done kind of recently, 2018. Is that considered recent, or am I old now?
I think after what we've been going through these last couple of years, mate, everything's just hot luck.
Yeah, everything kind of collides into one.
Yeah. You ever see the Melvins? You ever seen them live?
I was supposed to see King Buzzo do an acoustic gig in June of 2020, but we know how that worked out. I was supposed to see The Obsessed and Uncle Acid and Twin Temple as well that spring, and that just one by one.
Yeah. Well, last year, the year 2020, Doom was supposed to play. Was it last year? I can't. I can't remember. Now. It was either last year or the year before COVID. Doom were playing some festival in Vegas. Doom in Vegas. I mean,
Damn, what the fuck?
That's what helps us get all the other DIY. We had a load of DIY gigs planned around it. That's
nice.
It's what helps towards the cost of the flights and that, you know.
Yeah.
Which, you know, and then we had another Japanese tour. That's nothing. All went.
Nah.
Anyway, that's what it is, isn't it? You know, we're not the only ones, you know.
Yeah. I mean, I'd love to see you guys stateside once everything settles down, whatever, you know.
Yeah.
I've already mentioned that, you know, the stick, and I think that there was some talk of taking some of the Napalm Death tour that you guys were supposed to be a part of, but that fell through.
Yeah, again, it's all just been, yeah. Yeah, it's weird times, mate, weird times. I kind of went from constantly playing music since like late 91, early 92 till COVID. I'd always been doing something. It stopped.
Yeah.
I was like, wow.
That's gotta suck, man. Like, cause you're a old school road dog from like the age of like what, 14, 15, it sounds like.
Well, going on tour, well, I was playing gigs since I was 17, truthfully.
Yeah.
All right, I've done the old school thing, but to me, that doesn't count. But going out and starting learning to gig, I was like 17.
Gotcha.
And I'm almost 48 now, so
yeah.
I don't know anything else.
If it makes you feel any better, you're one of the younger interviews I've done.
That's it. Well, I was the baby of the scene back then, you know, when I joined Doom, I was 19.
Well, it's funny because I feel like me as in my place in some of the, you know, like Blaine Cook from The Accused I'm friends with, and apparently they all thought that I was their age.
The Accused was something else. Tommy's riffs and Blaine's voice, they were a big influence.
I will pass that on to Blaine as well. He's a very sweet guy. I don't know if you've seen anything that he does recently. He put out a cocktail book and he's got videos on YouTube where he does like, you know, the Wicker Bar. He hasn't changed a bit.
That's cool. Oh, that's cool. I've seen him on Facebook here and there, but I don't really know what he's doing now. I know it's two different accused.
He's in the Accused AD, which is everybody except one guy. And that's a very delicate situation, it seems like. But the other guys are also known as Toe Tag as well.
Okay.
They're really good. I mean, Blaine still sounds like Blaine, you know, and it's what I love The Accused. So I listen to The Accused AD. I'm friends with Blaine, like, you know.
Yeah. No, they had a very unique sound.
I met him because I was trying to buy one of his self-pressed 10-minute warning records, the band he was a part of with Duff McKagan before that. And I didn't know that I was talking to him, and I didn't know that he was also the singer in The Accused.
Yeah, because him and Duff were in the Farts, weren't they? I'd records out.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's awesome that you know this too. I did an interview with him, and I did Paul Soldier from 10-Minute Warning as well, and Soldier, and you know, Daniel House was there too. CZ Records, Skin Yard. That's one thing I wanted to know. Were you influenced by the stuff that was coming out of the Pacific Northwest as well? I know it was a bit slower than what you guys played, but were you into that?
I couldn't say I were really, you know.
Okay.
I mean, the other guys might tell you different. I can only speak for myself. I mean, I know I was really into bands like the early Bad Religion stuff, and he was really into COC. You know, COC ended up turning out.
Okay.
I mean, the punk side, the crossover side, the metal side.
So, what did you think of Cathedral then? Because I know you and the Napalm Death, and I know the connection.
Yeah, for me personally, I loved it.
I think his voice works so well with Cathedral.
Yeah, I mean, at the time I was very DIY punk rock, but I wasn't going to not listen to Cathedral. I mean, I was going to all them gigs back then, you know. Brian and that didn't particularly go to them kind of gigs. They'd be more into the Obsessed and Vitus and Trouble with very, very, very big influences on a lot of guys in the punk.
Oh, that makes me sad. Trouble, man. I was supposed to see The Skull with Eric Wagner. Mm-hmm. And the show was canceled like literally 3 days before the gig. and he went home, and 5 days later he was in the hospital, and a couple days later he died. And I'm like, man, I was that close to seeing him, you know. That kills me. They're
Yeah,
playing with the Obsessed. And you see the side drum head. I've been trying to see them. That's the third time I was able to see them, and it got ripped from underneath me.
me and Brian went to see them in 1994 supporting Prong, and we more went to see the Obsessed.
Oh wow, yeah, I would have been there to see the Obsessed too. Fair enough to say.
And then when have you heard of Roadburn Festival in Holland?
Yes.
Well, Voivod were curating it back in 2010, something like that. And Voivod invited Doom to play.
Oh,
so the Obsessed played, so we got to see the Obsessed then as well.
That's awesome.
So, yeah, I was lucky enough to see the Obsessed a couple of times.
Nice.
But, yeah.
Speaking of this genre of music, I'm also good friends with Bobby Liebling from Pentagram.
Oh, okay, yeah. Got to see Pentagram a couple of times. I'm pretty good friends with the roadie Joe. I don't know if you've seen him live. If you know
I
Joe.
may have talked to him at the merch table.
Well, he was the drummer in a really good hardcore band in Portland called Long Knife.
Okay, yeah.
It's like the Bastard Sons of Poison Idea. Just sound like Poison Idea.
Nice.
You know. So, but yeah. Pentagram again, another band. You know, great.
That
music.
was the loudest show I've ever been to when I saw them in 2019, I think. 2019, I think. Yeah, October. I felt like I had a helicopter buzzing over my head because they have such a bass heavy sound. I didn't wear earplugs. I was right up front. After it was over, I heard this.
I've had that with Motorhead and Killing Joke a few times over the years.
It's great, isn't it?
Well, I'm not so bad now because I'm a bit more deaf. Yeah, but going back to talk about Cathedral, Adam is a friend of mine who played guitar on the first couple of albums. Adam Lehan played on the Forest of Equilibrium and Ethereal Mirror.
Oh yeah.
Well, he kind of lives about 40 minutes train ride from here.
Oh
so
wow.
The whole time. I remember getting to see Cathedral with a Sleep supporting about 92.
Nice. That's one band I haven't gotten to see, but
I saw them in 91 as well, just when the first album came out, because they had Mike Smale playing drums that used to be in Penance.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm into a lot of 70s style stuff, you know, the slow stuff. And Adam, that was in Cathedral, he's actually just released an album with his new band called Workshed.
Oh wow.
Okay. Called Workshed because literally that's where they rehearse. But Lee's released it on Rise Above Records.
Nice.
So yeah, that's worth checking out. There's a lot
of
absolutely,
especially Rise Above.
It's like a Sabbath meets Celtic Frost with a bit of punk.
Okay, yeah, that is right up my alley.
Back to his roots with everything as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, I followed a lot of that stuff at the time as well, you know.
Well, yeah, I think that you would have joined Doom right as that kind of stuff was happening. When did Lee Dorian leave Napalm and form Cathedral? Early 90, 91?
89, 90 something. I think
Okay.
that Cathedral demo come out in 1990 and then they get the album in 91.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I got to tell you, what is that? Static Magic, that EP. I don't know what it is about these weird releases by bands that I find and latch onto, but there is not anything wrong at all with Static Magic, especially Cosmic Funeral.
Yeah, is that the one with the Voyage of the Homeless Sapien on it?
Yeah, it's got I think Midnight Mountains on it, and Cosmic Funeral is number 3, and I think Midnight's number 1.
Right. Yeah, Static Magic. That's one with the sort of nurse witch's face on it.
Yeah, it's the EP that came out, I think, right before the album.
Yeah, because that was Adam's last recording, I think. The guy we're talking about, I think that's just
okay. Yeah.
You know, they carried on as a 4-piece, didn't he? And then they got Scott from Repulsion.
I always wondered that because I kind of always read that they were a 4-piece, but it always sounded like that stuff was meant for a 5-piece. It sounded really
5-piece. It was Adam and Gaz on guitar, Griff on bass, and then Mike on drums and Lee singing.
Yeah,
And then
because at the
afterwards,
end
we had
of Cosmic Funeral, the call and answer between the two guitars was really cool.
it were great. That's why I love the early Cathedral, because Adam had a really raw guitar sound, but then Gaz had a really, and I'm not saying that Adam's wasn't nice, but it was more sort of rougher, whereas Gaz's was more melodic. They were both melodic players, but one was like a clean player and the other was a bit dirtier, and that contrast was really
Yeah,
good.
the opposites in that contrast work beautifully. I mean, I think we could come up with several examples of that, working well.
Yeah.
Man, this is just amazing.
It's even more amazing that the album, that Forest of Equilibrium, just turned 30 years old, I think.
Yeah, something like that. I mean, Nevermind just turned 30 like a month after I did.
You make me feel old, because I saw them on that tour, Bradford University, just before they got massive.
Nirvana?
Yeah. So,
oh, wow.
no, you were just born then. Yeah, I'm getting old.
I turned a year old when they played Reading 92. That was on my first birthday. August 30th, 1991, I was born. August 30th, 92, they played Reading.
There you go.
Ugh.
So I'm glad I saw them once. They were good live.
That's the one thing, is that I always look back and watch, when I was younger, more so, I would watch the videos and I would just be amazed. I'm like, this is 3 people. This sounds just like what's on the record, which said to me, they're a real band. They don't bother with a lot of, fixing things and layering a bunch of things. It's just straight from the gut.
Yeah, it was punk rock to an extent, I was playing punk rock.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's all he said. He's like, I just really wanted to play punk rock. A lot of those guys really were into punk rock and psychedelic stuff and just created their own scene.
Well, Dave Grohl was originally in Scream.
Yeah.
The DC band, and they'd been over a few years before. In fact,
Yeah.
I think,
well, I mean, you could take the roots of that scene, go back to, there was early Seattle punk rock. And then when Duff and Blaine Cook left 10-Minute Warning, and they became something else, which Henry Rollins described as Hawkwind meets punk rock, that started that shift. And you had Green River and the early bands that started what the whole thing goes way further back than the 89, 90, 91. It's wild when you go back and see how incestuous it was, and that, oh, this person was in this band and then this band and then this band, which became this band.
It's like, I mean, look at Doom, for example.
Yeah.
The bass player broke his wrist just before the first recording. So they got Jim, who, and he hates talking about it because there's more to Jim than this, but he was the bass player on the B-side of Scum, Napalm Death.
Okay. Yeah.
And then he went on to join Ripcord after Napalm Death. He now plays bass for Extinction of Mankind.
Oh, wow.
So, and he won't appreciate me mentioning the old bands, because he's just, again, Jim's Jim. He's just, he's just an old school punk rocker. Him and Steve, the Extinction singer, that's why I joined Extinction. I had a lot of respect for Steve, because at the time, a lot of bands like Doom and Napalm had already done the thing and done the Peel sessions and got releases on Earache and Peaceful. And then by 92, and I don't count Doom in this, some of the people from the era either wanted to be like ravers or took too many drugs or wanted to get involved in the dance scene or become fans and trendy, or wanted to become sort of self-important rock stars. They kind of like left the roots of it behind. And then Steve, who was a few years older than these people, who was at the Crash gigs and the Discharge gigs, who got the kick-ins that allowed us to go to gigs safely now. He took all the kick-ins all them years ago. And then he forms Extinction at a time when a lot of people were sort of walking away from it all. And that really meant a lot to me. And it still does. And
I tip my hat to him.
That's why we're good friends now. And that's why Jim, I think we forced Jim into joining Extinction of Mankind because he wasn't in the band at the time. And Lee Dorian said to me, we all met up at a festival somewhere. Extinction played Maryland Death Fest, and again playing a small club. And Lee was with Uncle Acid, who you were talking about earlier, and they were playing the main stage.
Nice.
Lee and Jim hadn't seen each other for a while, so that's how I kind of became friends with Lee then through Jimmy. But Lee said, he goes, "How the hell did you get Jim out of retirement?" You know, it's pretty easy because there's no ego, there's no agenda, and we look after each other. That's the one thing with Extinction. We're a lot closer, you know, like a band of brothers, you know.
Yeah, and I have to say, it doesn't matter. I've noticed what I like about, you know, the style of music and what you said. When people wanted to go off and do their own thing, you know, you guys were starting Extinction. I like that. I like where no matter if it goes out of style, you're still you. You're still
Yeah.
gonna like what you like. And I'm the same way.
Yeah.
I've never, you know, discarded stuff that, you know, oh, I'm a punk rocker now. No, I was playing the first Sex Pistols record and the first Pink Floyd record. I was learning how to play those albums on bass with tabs when I was a teenager. That's not ever going to go away. You know what I mean?
And Christ, that must have been such subversive music for the time. You know, even if Pink Floyd became probably everything that, you know, complete opposite of what they started off as, you know, but still that early era, that was really subversive music. There's nothing like that. It
still is. It's very unnerving for a lot of people even now.
With that Barrett solo stuff, I think, especially Madcap Laughs.
Oh yeah.
That, you know, you either love it or hate it, I think, but I just can get lost in
when
that.
I first heard the Syd Barrett solo stuff, because I had been, you know, I was in 8th grade when he passed away, actually, if I remember, because I made a handmade Shine On You Crazy Diamond shirt with Syd's name in the capital letters. Yeah. I just took a Sharpie to a blank white shirt because, you know, punk rock kid. You know, and I was one of the only ones who knew what it meant being in America. But you know, I didn't expect it to be so stripped back. It was almost folky, but I really dug Gigolo and it just grew on me. I kept listening to them and listening to them. And once I got it, they're almost tranquil in a way, wouldn't you say? Yet really dark.
Yeah, it's you sort of get something from it that you identify with, and then you sort of grab onto it, and then you find different bits about it. You can get lost in it every time you hear it, but that's music in general.
Yeah,
you know?
but the thing about people like Syd Barrett is they're a rare breed where they actually built a world within their music that's, you know, it's the difference from just making a song to making a piece of art, I guess. Yeah, that's it. You know,
I mean, to me, like the original or the classic headliner, I should say, with Fast Eddie and Filthy and Lemmy, what they created, and to me now, it's something more important about that now than there ever was back in the day when it was more popular, when it was trendy.
Because it was so simple and straightforward.
Yeah, but it was just, that thing you can't explain. It's just there, you know. It's
that
just
magic.
Yeah.
Or whatever. I don't know what it is
these days. I don't feel that. But we're all a product of what we listen to, what we grew up with. So I find myself struggling to find something like that now, you know.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, you know, I just find myself going deeper and deeper underground to find interesting stuff, no matter what it is or where it's from, you know.
Well, the internet, you know.
Yeah.
Compared to tape trading years ago. And so it was mainly because you had the metal punk thing, then the crossover thing that a lot of punks hated, the crossover thing. But for me, that was my era. That
yeah.
Kind of, you know.
So
I go see Crust. I didn't know I didn't know these bands played live when I was 12.
Yeah, right.
I was like, these actual people with real guitars on stage. What the I thought, I just didn't. No one my age was into it. So all I had was
Well,
my
Kiss being the first band that I ever got into at the age of 5, you know, for me it was, what you mean musicians don't fall from the sky? They're not these larger than life cosmic beings.
yeah.
I could do that.
And that's what I liked about the DIY punk rock scene, because I felt
Me
like I
too.
could do that, you know. Whereas these other bands or other scenes, I'm not talking to him. You know, the ego, you
Yeah,
know. Whereas
that's the
I
one
went to
thing I loved about it too.
it's like a stage that big, and people just going making a racket, like
Yeah,
yes, in my face like that, you know, screaming.
yeah, and it's so goddamn cathartic.
Yeah,
You're drunk, you're getting thrown around the whole fucking place, and
exactly.
you know,
Yeah, there's no security kicking you out,
nope,
beating shit out of you. It's like
nobody checking IDs.
the people going crazy. You fall over, someone picks you up. You carry on. Someone else falls over you. You pick them up. Make
My
sure they're all right.
first, yeah, like my first show in Philly. Oh man, my buddy was the guitar player in a band that was on the bill. So I got in as with the band, helping him carry his stuff. Didn't have to pay for a ticket because, you know, oh, he's playing, you know, blah, 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 blah. Looked like you're going in, you know, no big deal. And it was the benefit for Punk Island that year. And it was this big festival and all these bands. And I remember, you know, my friend was introducing me to his band members and shaking hands. Oh, hi, nice to meet you. And the singer goes, oh, I'll be right back. And he goes away and I'm talking to the drummer, you know, music, whatnot. And the singer comes back with an armful of beers and just starts handing everybody one, including me. It's like, oh, how much do I owe you? You don't owe me shit. Huh? Okay. It was just, you know, I'm home.
Yeah, yeah. Which
And
venue was that then? I remember a little venue in Philly called Kung Fu Necktie. You know,
I wasn't at that one. This was at a bar called JR's and it was upstairs. It was the upstairs room above a bar.
right. Cool.
But those are some of the best shows I've ever been to. There was no stage whatsoever. The band just played in the back and everybody else was there. Smoke alarms go off because everybody's smoking cigarettes and, you know. Ugh.
Good memories. They stick with you, you know.
Oh yeah, and that feeling of camaraderie. Like I still talk to that guitarist friend of mine. He's an author now, and but that kind of stuff doesn't leave you. I feel like if you get there, like for me, it's still a part of me. Like there's that burning. Well, I fucking hate the world, and I'm still fucking mad about it.
Yeah.
You know.
So are you still based in Philly, or are you in New York now?
I'm more towards Buffalo.
Oh, okay, right.
I was actually closer to Harrisburg than I was Philly.
Right.
We went up through Lancaster and all that.
Yeah, I've kind of got a rough idea. I mean, Buffalo is where the border is with Niagara Falls to Canada. Yeah.
Yep. I'm an hour and a half from the Canadian border, so it's cold right now.
Yeah.
It was -6 on my drive home.
Was it really that cold?
Fahrenheit, so it's like -20 something, I think, in Celsius.
I don't know. I usually do Fahrenheit, so I'm with you there.
Yeah, I never know. I just started, years ago doing this. I love it because I meet all kinds of people, but I've adopted Celsius and the date formats and everything.
Yeah,
I'm cultured.
Fair enough, yeah.
But at the end of the day, I mean, I guess in a way we kind of answered this, but this is a question I ask everybody I have on. What do you love about music at the end of the day? And there's no right or wrong answer.
Yeah, oh, well, I guess it's saved my life a heap of times, you know. When nothing else has made sense, the music's made sense. And if you ask why, I can't give you a definitive answer. You feel it, you know.
Yeah.
It's just there, you know. And there was a time in my life, I don't know about as much now, but when I played live, it was a catharsis. It was my hour of switching off, you know, before maybe I started getting a bit too crazy with the booze and, you know.
Yeah.
There was a time when playing was my switch off for an hour. You know, it was like everything's okay now.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I guess it's the only thing in life that hasn't truly let me down. You know. Yeah, it's. I started doing it as a kid, and then the next minute, I'm nearly 50. I'll worry about that when I'm older. I'll worry about that when I'm older. The next minute, holy fuck, I'm older.
Oh, worry about it when you're even older.
Yeah, well, I'm too old to change anything now, aren't I? You know. So
hey, there's nothing wrong with that.
And if you've got it, you've got it. And I'm not the most gifted musician, quite the opposite. But I know that I can kind of make a pretty good noise with the right people, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean,
my own trumpet there. I'm not meaning to, but I guess I've done it this long to be able to say that, you know.
You're talking to a fan of yours right now, so
maybe I make a pretty good noise with the right people.
Yeah.
Everything else in life, like, but that's how it is.
So I guess the only other thing, because I'm a guitar and bass nerd, what guitar do you prefer to use, and what bass do you prefer to use?
My bass, I was very lucky that my friend Andy, who he's just made me a bass, basically.
Oh, nice.
I don't know if he'd want me to be giving this life story away, but he's got a lot of health issues. And his dream was, before he got too unwell, was to make a guitar for someone to play. And so I was like, do it. So the guitar that I'm playing is it's Elegy. This company is called, I say company, it's just a guy with a garage, you know.
Wow.
The bass is called Elegy. There's an Elegy Facebook page if you want to look into it and find out more. But yeah, it's made out of oak.
Ooh.
I got some lace pickups, man of war pickups that are really, really meaty active pickups, but without the battery. It's all to do with magnets and.
Nice.
So I've got an Elegy bass that's been made that's pretty beefy. Yeah, that's been all over the place. And then my guitar, I used to have a Charvel, like a 1986 Charvel that I murdered it. It had active pickups and really good chug. Now I'm playing at the minute an LTD Viper 401.
Nice.
EMGs, active EMGs. But my core sound is Marshall 900 and Marshall Shredmaster pedal. And I've tried other distortions. I cannot find anything that gives me my chug, my guitar sound. But the Shredmaster pedal are getting so expensive now. It's vintage.
Yeah.
You know? So I use the Shredmaster. And then bass, I use a Boss HM2 pedal and usually Ampeg.
Nice. Okay.
But again, the make of that bass, just the way it resonates with the HM2, that's what gives it that
extra punch.
Yeah. And it's
that crusty sound.
Yeah, but live it really did, you know. So,
well, I hope to hear it one day. I hope to see a stateside, man. Like
me too. I miss my trips to the States. It's the one place I've been to a lot more than I think I've been to the States about 21 times now.
Wow.
And it's always a good time. Always a good time. And one of my best friends lives in Chicago.
Oh, cool.
So usually try to get out to Chicago as much as possible.
Nice, yeah. If you head up my way, you know, let me know.
Give you a shout, mate. We'll get out for a beer.
Absolutely. See Niagara Falls or something.
Yeah, that sounds good. Jump off and go swimming. But you're still doing boat trips under it. What is it?
Yeah, they do the Maid of the Mist. Yes, they still do that. It's wild though, because like I don't have my passport, and I was going to, but the way things are right now, I'm just gonna wait. But you can actually like stand there and you put your quarter into the scope thing, and you can actually look, and you can see on the other side, on the Canadian side.
Yeah.
There's a New York side for the Maid of the Mist and a Canadian side, and it's so wild to think the only thing that separates us in Canada is this water. To me, it's just stunning in a way.
Yeah. Well, don't even get me started with that.
Yeah, let's not, because this will turn into a 3 hour.
I mean, I think I've said it in the messages. I feel like I'm in a COVID Brexit prison. You know, I've never. It's just like the late 70s, early 80s or something all over again. You know, it's like,
Damn you, Margaret Thatcher.
yeah, the ghost of Thatcher and then Boris.
Well, the
Johnson.
ghost of Reagan's still in this country pretty heavy, if it makes you feel any better.
Yeah, it's never going to be any different, is it, mate? It's never going to be.
Things get worse before they get better. Let's hope we're at the worst
And it's
part.
still getting worse. God damn it!
Let's hope we've reached the worst part. And I don't know.
Yeah.
Hopes for dopes, though. You can't win.
No, it's damage limitation now to me, Andy. It's just making the best of what we've got and do what we can, and just look after each other in the meantime. You know.
It's the working class in us, isn't it?
Yeah, I guess so.
The resilience.
Yeah, that's the one. That's the one.
But
So,
thank you very much, man. This has been an absolute honor. And guys, if you like what we're doing here, interviewing people like Scoot from Doom and Extinction of Mankind and a bunch of others, hit the like button, hit the subscribe, leave a comment. I'm sure Scoot will be poking around. And until then, I'm Andy Thunders, and that's Scoot. Thank you very much, guys. Have a good one.
Cheers.